331 before Christ. The Persian desert burned under a sun that forgave no one. Alexander was 25 years old. In front of him was the army of Darius III, the King of Kings, the man who ruled the greatest empire the world had ever seen. More than 200,000 soldiers, war elephants, cavalry that made the ground shake from miles away. And Alexander smiled, not out of arrogance, not out of madness, but because he had spent the last 10 years preparing for exactly this moment. While other princes slept in palaces, Alexander woke up before the sun. While other heirs drank wine and fought for favors, he studied Homer, trained with the sword, and learned to endure what most men cannot bear: the waiting, the pain, and the weight of an ambition that has no place in any crown. That day, at Gaugamela, Alexander didn't just win one battle. He proved something that the Stoics would understand centuries later, and that most modern men still refuse to accept. The question is, what was Alexander doing in that dark that no self-help book will tell you? To understand Alexander, you need to understand where he came from. The Macedonia of the 4th century BC was not Rome. It wasn't Athens. It was a semi-barbaric kingdom on the margins of the Greek world, despised by Athenian philosophers, ignored by the great powers, treated as second-rate territory by almost everyone who mattered at the time. Alexander's father, Philip II, had changed this by force. With blood, strategy, and pragmatic brutality that reorganized the Greek military structure from scratch. Philip created the Macedonian phalanx, the most lethal combat formation in the ancient world. He trained an army that was not just strong, he was disciplined in a way the Greeks had never seen, and it was in this environment that Alexander grew up. But Philip did not entrust his son's education to the generals alone. He hired Aristotle. Think about this for a moment. The greatest philosopher in the Western world. Private teacher for a 16-year-old prince. For 3 years, Alexander studied with Aristotle at Mieza. Rhetoric, philosophy, medicine, zoology, ethics. Not as an academic exercise, as preparation to govern. Aristotle taught that a man who cannot control himself cannot control anything else. That virtue is not a feeling, it is a habit built with deliberate repetition, day after day, even when it hurts, even when no one sees it. Alexander absorbed this in a way that few can. But the central conflict in Alexander's life was not external. It wasn't Darius, it wasn't Persia, it wasn't the impossible extension of his empire, it was internal. Alexander carried within him two forces in constant tension: the desire for glory, inherited from Achilles, the hero he revered above all else, and the cold, almost clinical discipline that his father and Aristotle had molded in him. Glory without discipline is suicide. Discipline without purpose is prison. Alexander spent his entire life trying to balance these two forces. And the moments when he did, those are the moments that changed the world. Let's go back to Gaugamela. It was the 1st of October, 331. Alexander's generals met the night before the battle. Parmenio, the most experienced general, the man who had served Philip and who knew war better than anyone else in that camp, approached Alexander with a proposal. The historical reconstruction of this dialogue, based on the accounts of Aristotle and Plutarch, suggests something like this. "Alexander," said Parmenio, "attack at night. They are in greater numbers. Darkness equalizes forces. It is the rational decision." Alexander looked at him for a moment. "I don't steal victories," he replied. 3 words. But what was behind them was not youthful arrogance. It was something deeper. The conviction that a victory obtained by shortcut proves nothing. Not about the enemy. And, most importantly, not about yourself. Alexander wanted to know if he could beat Darius in the open field. He needed to know. The next morning, as the sun rose over Gaugamela, Alexander did something his own generals considered madness. He slept. While the army prepared itself, while tension ran through every line of soldiers, while Parmenio sent messengers to ask where the king was, Alexander slept in his tent. Plutarch records that Parmenio came in personally to wake him up. How can you sleep like we've already won? And Alexandre, opening his eyes without haste, responded, "We already won." Dario finally stopped running away and agreed to face us. That's all I needed. This was not presumption. It was the result of a mind trained not to waste energy on what cannot be controlled. Alexandre had prepared himself. He had done everything in his power. The rest didn't deserve his anxiety. The ensuing battle is studied in military academies to this day. Darius had prepared the ground, he had leveled the ground so that his war chariots could advance without obstacles. He had positioned his best warriors in the center. It had an overwhelming numerical advantage. Alexandre identified all of this. And then he did the opposite of what any general expected. He attacked from the right with the cavalry of the companions, the Macedonian mounted elite, creating a void in the center of the Persian line, a void that he himself crossed like a spear, straight towards Dario. The King of Kings fled. For the second time, the Achaemenid Empire, 300 years of rule, the greatest power structure the world had known, began to crumble at that moment. Not because Alexander had more soldiers, not because luck was on his side, but because a 25-year-old man had spent his entire life building the ability to act clearly exactly when the pressure was at its highest. What Alexander did in Gaugamela did not begin in Gaugamela. It started years ago, on the mornings he woke up when his body asked for rest. In the training he completed when no generals were watching. He took his studies with Aristotle seriously when he could have rested on the privilege of his name. The discipline that Alexander practiced was different from what is sold as discipline today. She was not motivational. It didn't depend on humor, inspiration, or feeling good about the process. It was structural, built on habits so deep that they worked even on days when everything spoke against taking action. Marcus Aurelius, writing 4 centuries later, would call this prohairesis, the ability to direct one's will regardless of external circumstances. The only real freedom there is. Alexandre did not know this term, but he practiced the concept with a consistency that few philosophers have achieved. For modern man, the lesson is not to be like Alexander. This is a trap. The lesson is more specific and more demanding. Are you building your ability to perform under pressure in moments when pressure is absent? Most men wait for the crisis to find out who they are. Wait for the moment of decision to decide how you will react. Alexander understood that the battlefield only reveals what was built before. Nothing more. This means that discipline is not something you mobilize when you need it. It's something you are or aren't when the moment comes, and you only find out which of the two options is true when it's too late to change. The second lesson is about the night before Gaugamela. Alexander slept because he had done what was in his power to do. There was nothing left to control. Anxiety would be a waste, energy wasted on something that wouldn't change the outcome. This is not passivity. It is the most advanced form of self-control, knowing where your responsibility ends and chance begins. Most men do the opposite. Act little where you can act, and it consumes itself in what it cannot control. Alexandre was 25 years old and had completely reversed this equation. Alexandre died at the age of 32. Some say he died too soon, that the empire did not survive because he did not live to consolidate it. That all of that was ephemeral. But what Alexander left was not territory. It was a demonstration, documented, studied, repeated for 2,000 years, that a man who governs himself can, under the right circumstances, govern the world. The empire fragmented, the cities changed their names. The generals killed each other for what was left. But the image of a 25-year-old king, sleeping peacefully on the eve of the greatest battle of the century, that image has not disappeared because she doesn't talk about Alexandra. She talks about what's possible when a man gets serious about the only territory he can truly conquer, to yourself. If you've made it this far, you already know that this channel isn't about cheap motivation. Sign up. The next video will explore the man who looked Alexander in the eye, refused everything he had to offer, and yet was called by him the only free man he ever knew, Diogenes of Sinope. shortly.